Welcome to Lucid Soma. Here, we peel back the layers of reality to examine the architecture of psychology, philosophy, and power. If you are seeking comfort and platitudes, you have come to the wrong place. But if you are seeking a sharper mind and a more resilient strategy for navigating the complexities of human existence, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we are stepping away from the idealized world of how things ought to be and stepping into the raw, uncut reality of how they actually are. We are delving into the mind of history's most notorious political strategist, Niccolò Machiavelli. You probably think you already know him. You have heard the phrase Machiavellian. It's a synonym for evil, for low-level sociopathy, for being that conniving backstabber in corporate America that everyone despises. You were told he wrote the ultimate guidebook for tyrants. You were told his ideas belong in the dark corners of the Renaissance, not in your modern life. But here is the ruthless truth, the quiet realization that hits you only when you keep getting crushed by people less intelligent but more politically savvy than you. That interpretation is a cognitive trap. It is a fairy tale told to you by the naively moral, keeping you passive while others dictate your fate. By rejecting Machiavelli, you are not being a good person, you are volunteering to be target practice in a world that operates on game theory, not Hollywood endings. Look at your own life, especially here in the United States, in this hyper-competitive culture we live in. We are conditioned from a very young age to believe that meritocracy is a hard and fast rule. You are taught that if you go to a good school, get your degrees, keep your head down, work harder than everyone else, and play strictly by the rules, the universe will reward you with success, respect, and fulfillment. It is a seductive narrative, a psychological safety blanket. But how is that actually working out for you in reality? Think about your workplace right now. The guy getting the corner office and the substantial bonus, is he always the smartest person in the room? Is he the hardest working? Or is he the one who knows how to manage up, the one who expertly creates alliances, the one who knows exactly when to take credit and exactly whose mistakes to subtly highlight without leaving fingerprints? You see it happening. You feel a deep, simmering frustration because you are losing a game you refuse to admit you are even playing. This naivety is not virtuous, it is a fatal strategic error. In a highly decentralized, high-stakes environment like American society, resources are finite, status is relative, and everyone, even the ones liking your LinkedIn posts with the celebrate emoji, is inherently motivated by their own self-interest. If you choose to navigate this reality while wearing the blinders of absolute moral idealism, you are not being superior, you are being target practice. This profound naivety is a cognitive handicap, a refusal to see the darker half of human psychology. And this is precisely where Machiavelli comes in, like a splash of ice-cold water in the middle of your cozy dream. Writing his masterpiece, The Prince *, while exiled and defeated in the 16th century, he stripped away centuries of religious morality and philosophical pretense to expose the raw, ugly anatomy of power. He didn't write about the world as a utopian haunt. He wrote about the world as an observable, historical viz. These lessons are not about becoming a villain, they are about becoming a strategist. They are about shifting your perspective from being a victim of circumstances to being the architect of your own outcome. Understanding Machiavelli doesn't make you evil, it makes you incredibly smart, resilient, and virtually UN manipulatable. It is time to wake up. We are going to examine the most ruthless principles Machiavelli ever laid down, principles that sound horrific in a sermon but operate as gravity in real-world human dynamics. We are going to decode why he believed it is far safer to be feared than loved, how the ultimate skill is mastering the art of appearances over substance, and why the intelligent strategist never relies on others, but creates necessity. Learning this is not an option if you want to win, it is a requirement to survive the quiet war being waged around you every single day. To truly grasp the ruthless intelligence of Machiavelli, you must first understand the fundamental cognitive framework upon which all his strategies are built. He rejected the metaphysical high ground entirely. While philosophers like Plato and Aristotle spent their lives analyzing the ideal state and the perfectly virtuous leader, Machiavelli argued that this idealized worldview is precisely what makes you vulnerable to predators. He established the bedrock principle of realpolitik political realism. He stated, "For how we live is so far removed from how we ought to live, that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done, will rather learn his ruin than his preservation." This is the intellectual splash of ice-cold water that modern, idealistic Americans desperately need. In our society, we are drunk on the Lord. Corporate mission statements talk about making the world a better place when we all know they exist solely to maximize shareholder value. Political discourse is framed in the language of morality when the primary objective is almost always the seizure or retention of power. By refusing to accept this duality, you are operating with an obsolete map. You are playing checkers while the world is playing three-dimensional, high-stakes chess. Machiavelli wasn't a sociopath, he was a scientist. He didn't invent betrayal, he just had the courage to analyze it, like a biologist examining a lethal virus. To refuse to look at his findings because you find them immoral is like a medical doctor refusing to study oncology because they dislike cancer. It is not virtuous, it is strategically fatal. The smart strategist understands that morality is not a hard law of the universe, it is a human construct, and most importantly, it is a tool used by the powerful to keep the weak in line. While you are busy adhering to an abstract moral code in a highly competitive corporate America environment, your Machiavellian competitor is treating that same moral code as a variable in a mathematical equation. They observe it, they manipulate it, and they weaponize it against you. They know that your predictable, naive adherence to the playing fair makes you an easily solvable problem. They don't have to guess what you will do, your morality dictates it. In contrast, they possess the terrifying tactical advantage of complete moral flexibility. Understanding this distinction is the beginning of true strategic intelligence. You cannot compete with someone who treats the rules as optional while you treat them as sacred. This brings us to the first ruthless lesson that will instantly sharpen your intellect, the principle of strategic appearances. In chapter 18 of The Prince Machiavelli drops an absolute bombshell about human perception. He writes, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." He recognized that the vast majority of human beings are simple, reactive organisms that process reality at the surface level. We believe what we are shown. We accept labels. We are easily distracted by performance. The sophisticated Machiavellian therefore treats their reputation, their public persona as an entirely separate project from their true character. They understand that while you do not need to possess the virtues of compassion, integrity, or kindness, you must appear to possess them at all times, with absolute conviction. Why? Because virtues are socially expensive to practice but exceptionally profitable to feign. Being actually compassionate means sacrificing resources. Being genuinely honest means exposing your vulnerabilities. But appearing compassionate and honest grants you all the trust and social capital of the real thing, without any of the actual cost. Think about the Silicon Valley tech founder. They don't wear a three-piece Italian suit, they wear a t-shirt and a hoodie, specifically to project the appearance of authenticity, disruptiveness, and accessibility. They aren't cold-hearted capitalists, they are mission-driven dreamers. It is a meticulously crafted performance. It is a modern, high-stakes application of Machiavelli's instruction, be a great pretender and dissembler. If you want to succeed in a culture built on optics, you must master the art of masking. Your face, your tone of voice, your online presence, these are not extensions of your soul, they are strategic assets to be managed. You are a brand, and in the marketplace of perception, the most convincing brand, not the best product, wins. To reject this is to volunteer to be misunderstood, underestimated, and ultimately, defeated. The second lesson is perhaps his most infamous, and the one that causes the most immediate visceral reaction in modern Americans. It is far better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. We are a nation obsessed with popularity. We want to be liked. We crave external validation. We think effective leadership is about consensus and charismatic warmth. This is a fatal misconception of game theory and human incentives. Machiavelli, with his characteristic icy clarity, explained exactly why this is a strategic error in Chapter 17. He observed that love is a voluntary, emotional contract, and therefore, it is inherently fickle and unreliable. People love you for what you do for them, not for who you are. The moment you stop providing benefits, the moment the situation changes, the emotional contract is unilaterally cancelled. But fear? Fear is different. Fear is an obligatory, stable connection. It is not an emotion, it is an incentive structure. It is the fear of consequences. Machiavelli writes that fear is held by an apprehension of punishment which never leaves you. When you are feared, you don't rely on the unstable goodwill of others to get things done, you create dependency. In corporate America, the leader who is loved is often popular until the moment a difficult decision, like a merger or layoffs, has to be made. That leader is suddenly paralyzed by the desire to maintain their popularity. But the Machiavellian leader who is respected through fear creates an organization that functions flawlessly. Their team knows that failure to perform or disloyalty has a high, unavoidable cost. You cannot run a complex, high-stakes organization on consensus, you run it on obedience and predictability. This doesn't mean you should be a sadistic tyrant. Machiavelli specifically warns that you must avoid hatred at all costs, as hatred leads to conspiracy and ruin. Fear means being strategically stern, utterly reliable in your consequences, and deeply indispensable. Love is a luxury for the private sphere, fear is a functional requirement for the public square. If you want to maintain your position, your strategy must create a reality where others cannot afford your absence or risk your wrath. You must build your power on the immutable foundation of necessity, not on the shifting sands of sentiment.